I keep hearing that knowledge is power. It's not. Knowledge is not power. The use of knowledge is power. And I can understand people who do nothing because they're in complete ignorance of what's going on and don't feel there's anything to do. But I do shake my head often when I see people who have some level of awareness of what is going on and the potential consequences of it, and their response is to do nothing or just to hurl abuse at other researchers or other people who are saying different things to them about what's going on. I wouldn't like to be them when their kids say, "Mummy, Daddy, what were you doing when this all came in?" Because I think that's pathetic.
Master, I am puzzled. That is the beginning of wisdom. I have seen you laugh, and I have seen you cry. And you do not? We are taught discipline. The purpose of discipline is to live more fully, not less. But how shall I know if my sorrow is only the echo of self-pity, or my laughter the preening of my own happiness? The bird sings in the forest. Does it seek to be admired for its song? Let tears come when your heart tells you of its sadness. Let joy come unasked, unplanned. It is written, shape clay into a vessel. It is the space within that gives it value. Place doors and windows in a house. It is the opening that brings light within. Set spokes within a wheel. It is the emptiness of the hub that makes them useful. Therefore, be the space at the center. Be nothing, and you will have everything to give to others. Your feet tread heavily on the ground. Have you a burden, grasshopper?
It is my thoughts that carry the weight, Master. I have been in the marketplace. All the men there argue and fight. There is no peace.
Why does that trouble you when your home is here?
I would want all men to know peace.
It is written in the Tao Te Ching. Under heaven, all can see beauty as beauty only because there is ugliness. All can know good as good only because there is evil. Therefore, having and not having arise together. Difficult and easy complement each other. High and low rest upon each other. Front and back follow one another.
But, Master, do we not want all men to know our peace, our joy?
Would you make the whole world a temple? Be like the sun, and what is within you will warm the earth.
Saturn's come into my life so much. There are some people who are trying to, exploit me and bring me down at the moment. Well, all the best, mate. Try another lifetime. But and they, in their astrological charts, Saturn is absolutely there.
Yeah.
Big time.
Yeah.
And so this is this Saturn thing coming up, and what am I doing? I'm exposing in so many ways the Saturn energy in all its forms, with the control system and the imposition and the Orwellian state. It's all very Saturn-like in its energy. And out of all that stuff, and it's kind of a melting pot at the moment, a great understanding is going to come out of how that
So as you're working on that, you're putting the Saturn piece together. Meanwhile, another ongoing part of what you're doing is trying to assist humanity in understanding in themselves how to become their own hero, how to break the spell.
Yeah.
And there's some really basic tenets. It's like we were talking about Jamie having to take a wee earlier in our conversation. Common decency, recognizing what's true and what's good. And one of the things you point out, which I couldn't agree more with, is we have to stop lying to ourselves first.
Well, that's an interesting point, actually. I've been having some experience of that in the last few months, and which has kind of made me kind of look at things and see how deep that is, because we can't change anything until we recognize what needs changing. This is why people hide things from themselves through what I call wishful thinking. You wish it wasn't happening, so you try to kid yourself that it's not. Nothing you have to do about it. And for me, I have this this line in my talks where I'm talking about it is what it is. Once you kind of are open with yourself and you say, I am what I am, or it is what it is, then if there's things that need addressing, you can address them. But if you are in denial of what is, because you don't want to think that a few people are manipulating the world to what they want, as a nightmare kind of beyond Orwellian state, then you can not only ignore the fact that it's happening because you don't want it to be true, you can actually turn very antagonistically against anyone who's trying to point out that it's happening, because basically you're saying to them, shut up, don't want to hear about it. And so you go over the top in terms of, you know, attacking people who are trying to get this stuff out. But something that I've been experiencing and seeing in relation to this, I have, over the years, found that there is a ridiculous number of people in what we call the New Age or spiritual arena, in the conspiracy arena too, who try to sell or promote themselves as love and light and I love everyone and I'm kind and all this stuff. And then you find that actually they're anything but. They're self-centered, cold, callous, devious, vindictive, and utterly self-obsessed. And you start to think, why do I find so many of these people in what is supposed to be a love and light arena? I'm not saying nearly all. I'm not knocking that kind of New Age arena. I mean, you know, there are many lovely people in that arena, but I see this ridiculous ratio of people who are promoting themselves in that way who are the opposite of what they're promoting. And on one level, you realize they're trying to kid other people into believing that's who they are. And my thing is, if you have to keep telling me how loving and kind you are, then why? It should be obvious. But then you go to the next stage, and yes, they're trying to persuade others that that's who they are, but you know they're trying to persuade most, they're trying to persuade themselves. And when you are like a ruthless banker who accepts that they're a ruthless banker and gets some kind of self-identity from being a ruthless banker, hey, I've got the best of him, he's lost his home and everything, and oh, look at the profit. You don't have to hide yourself from yourself, because you're at peace with being a ruthless bloody banker and glorying in it. I've met him. But when you are in the love and light arena, you have to hide your true self from others, or they say, well, what you been? You're loving and kind, look what you're doing. But more than that, you have to hide it from yourself, because you don't want to face yourself. So you build this persona. And the more self-obsessed you are, the more extreme is the persona to cover it. And those people and others like that, and to an extent, you know, we've all got to do this. There's no cross-legged on a mountain, I'm perfect, I'm looking down on the rest of you. If we don't face what is, both personally and collectively in terms of what's happening in the world, then what is doesn't change. These people who are selling this love and light persona to the world and themselves are never going to truly become that, because they're not addressing what's behind the shield, what's behind the smoke and mirrors they put up for themselves. And there's so many people like that. You know, you see their words and then you see their actions, and you can kind of shake your head that they can't put the two together. But they're so in denial, they're so subject to cognitive dissonance, where they can rearrange reality so that they can do things that are clearly unpleasant but somehow justify it to themselves. That these people are in a terrible mess, and they're never going to purge themselves of that stuff until they recognize that there's stuff to be purged, and there is in all of us.
Well, that's the get off your knees. I mean, this is part of the get off your knees part of your message.
Yeah.
That it's time for us collectively and individually to really grow up, address what we are. I mean, you can't fix something if you, like you said, if you don't even know there's something wrong. So in your solutions part, because some people will say, okay, you've told us what's wrong, you've told us who these beings are, and I'm frightened, I'm scared, you know, you have that, but then let's look at the other side of it. You're also saying, A, stop lying to yourself, assess it, accept what is, and then start doing what?
Well, for me, the starting point before anything happens is a blank sheet of paper. I think this is so important, because we're not having to find enlightenment. We are enlightened, if you want to use that term. What we need to address are the barriers of belief systems and preconceived ideas that are about self and the world, that are disconnecting us from that enlightenment. And it's these programs that have to go. And when you get a blank sheet of paper, symbolically, and you say, I am coming to this with no preconceived idea, never mind previous belief, blank sheet of paper, information, and what I feel, what my intuition is telling me, that's going to be my guide from now on. And everyone I've met that has, in whatever subject area, made a difference, they've started with a blank sheet of paper, because to make a difference they've had to clear themselves of preconceived ideas which were limiting their perception of what was possible and were clouding their judgment and clouding their clarity.
Sir, we thank you. We prefer not to drink liquor.
You got 2 minutes to drink up about half that bottle. Then your friend there's got 2 minutes to drink the other half.
In the pond there are some lotuses which stand above the water. And though their roots feed, they are themselves untouched by it. Some others have risen only to the water's level, and others are still underwater.
Shall I seek to measure these differences, Master, that I may treat them differently, each according to his growth?
Examine the flower. Is not the flower in each position yet a flower?
Shall I then treat each man the same?
As far as possible, without surrender, be on good terms with all.
Yet, the flower beneath the water knows not the sun. Other men, not knowing me, will find me hard to understand.
Accept the ways of others. Respect first your own.
Is it not better to see yourself truly than care about how others see you?